conversation on a wide range of topics. Our podcast is dedicated on giving you a platform to express your opinion, our opinion, and share your thoughts and our thoughts, experience ideas, and hear from a variety of perspectives and honest opinions. Just go figure. All right, so join us, dive in the latest news, pop culture, and so much more from rants about absurdity of modern life to discuss about deeper issues affecting society as a whole. The Rant Network, we've got you covered. So sit back, relax, and join us on this discovery of exploration, blah, blah, blah. It's time to join the Rant Network.
Blah, blah,
wow.
Wow.
Blah, 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 blah. You know, David, speaking of blah, 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 everyone thinks I did that by accident. Did you hear the latest that there's going to be a January 6th level riot? Did you hear that Donald Trump is going to be indicted and that a Democrat district attorney who's overzealous yet again wants to try and rip the former president of the United States down? However, there has been absolutely zero indictments, absolutely zero serious investigations into Hunter Biden. So it seems like, David, they need to just accuse a Republican and they're guilty, or a Democrat, well, you got to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And to add this, you know, David, I briefly mentioned that I was on a boat this Sunday. And you know what the key note from that entire boat ride was? The daughter-in-law of the owner of this magnificent boat started saying a statement. But the statement was so untrue. So where do these people come up with this audacity to just spew venom and then call those people the venomous snakes? I don't get it. David, let's go.
All right. Okay. So, let's take a step back. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is one more witch hunt again on the Donald Trump scene. And, you know, it's been witch hunt after witch hunt for the last 8 years. Right. And, you know, since 2015, since he announced that he wanted to run, it has been the Democrats, you know, I guess the Democrats and the media's, you know, obsession to go after Donald Trump. And since he was president, it was all about impeachment, Russian collusion. And then there was this story, the story that Donald Trump gave hush money to Stormy Daniels. And if you're not familiar with the name Stormy Daniels, she is a famous, infamous, whatever you want to call it, porn star. And listen, take it for what it is. You know, there are rules. There are rules when you go after somebody. And apparently, the one rule of you are innocent until proven guilty never has been applied to Donald J. Trump. Never. All right, he's guilty of sin. The media has lambasted him. The Democrats have completely crucified him. And no matter what Donald Trump does, he's automatically guilty. Well, here's Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Now, we've talked about Alvin Bragg. And one of the things we commented about was that he decided himself that he wasn't going to fight petty crimes in New York. Right? He was duly elected. And unfortunately, Mr. Bragg has decided that petty crimes are irrelevant, and the fact that teenagers being killed in fast food joints that doesn't merit, you know, prosecution. Because really, why? Because is it really going to help his political career? Why? Helping the African American community? No, that's not going to do it. But prosecuting this president will. And that is what Alvin Bragg has been doing. And he has said, no, it's not it at all. He has no political aspirations. Bullshit. But here's the thing. It's not only an egregious corruption of his power that he's doing it, it's all flawed. First of all, the statute of limitations expired years ago. So bye-bye. What are you doing here? His predecessor declined prosecution because the law does not support a criminal charge. And the feds who investigated the case determined that the evidence just wasn't there. So, of course, Bragg has decided, you know what? In the court of public opinion, I'm going to be right. So what the hell? Let's do it. I'm going to bring in Michael Cohen, this confessed liar who went to prison, and I'm going to use him. I'm going to go after Donald Trump. I'm going to be the man that's going to take down Donald Trump. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we've both said this on this show. We are not supporters of Donald Trump. I've said it overtly. I don't want to see him elected in 2024. I don't want to see him near the White House other than being a guest. But in this case, Donald Trump is just in the middle. It's a witch hunt, and I'll tell you, to show you to what extent the hype and the craziness is gone. Donald Trump is never at a loss of words. He doesn't choose always the best words, but in this case, he said he's going to be arrested tomorrow, and that people should protest. Of course, the liberal media, the left, politicians like Nancy Pelosi are now saying that these are January 6th-like threats. Come on. You know, in the world of exaggerations, in the world of complete and utter sham, you have a Hunter Biden who's getting away with murder, bribery, extortion. No one's allowed to touch him. He is untouchable because he's a Democrat. And on this side, you've got a Republican who, no matter what shit you throw at it, it sticks even though it's flawed. Stuart, it really makes me nauseated to see that this continues to be, that the hypocrisy isn't obvious. It's not obvious. Hey, Stu, it's just not obvious.
No. All right. So, you know, when I sit back and relax and I try and digest everything about, you know, Nancy Pelosi, you know, I think more of what stocks did she sell in advance of the bank crisis.
Stay on topic, buddy. Stay on topic.
Hey, David, I am on topic. You don't let me go around and just sort of use a washing machine. But the important part about this is how Nancy Pelosi speaks out of both sides of her mouth, which is on topic, David. And she decides to call it January 6th level threats. Well, I think, you know, financial corruption is more important than anything about Donald Trump. And David, I'm not against Donald Trump. I'm not for Donald Trump. He's just another political figure that's currently in the news. And so I think that never in history has any president been targeted by any party ever like this. I don't think that there's any legitimacy to Bragg in New York. I think New York has been falling apart like California. That's why the mass exodus is absolutely insane. But yes, David, that's my thought. I'm sorry, David.
But you know what? I gotta tell you, Stuart, and I gotta tell you, this, and I know that we're on a live show, and I know that. Sorry, folks, for the noise, but here's the thing that I'm beyond the pale. It is that yesterday, Sundays are all about talk shows, right? You got all the news networks have their talk shows, and they all have all have their opinions and whatever, from left to right and whatever. But it was really interesting because I did take a glance at a whole bunch of them. And as much as everybody likes to say that Fox News is the Donald Trump loving network, it wasn't. There were a lot of people who were very angry at Donald Trump for the way he acted. And there are a lot of people on that station. I'm not going to say that, you still have your Hannity who's in love with Donald Trump. But generally speaking, Fox News has been giving him, his due, because his words, his choices, his this and that. But they're also saying, look, enough already. The hypocrisy of the Democrats talking about bipartisanship, about cooperation, and then they do stuff like this. It just shows you that they don't care about you and me, Stuart. That the reality is that these elected politicians, like Alvin Bragg, believes that Donald Trump is a hardcore criminal. Why? Because he gave money to a porn star. Because all of a sudden, a porn star is like the second lowest form of man, and therefore should be treated as a criminal. It's hush money, as if we opened up everybody's skeleton closet in Congress, the Senate, and the president, we wouldn't find skeletons in closets. We wouldn't find it. Kennedy was famous for that, right? Okay, are you telling me that no other president didn't have skeletons in the? Of course they do. Joe Biden has major skeletons in the closet. When it comes up to, just look at the way they handled the whole document thing. Donald Trump had documents at home, And yes, he fought because he's a fighter. And what did he do? The FBI showed up, Biden's lawyers showed up. Everybody could do whatever they want, say whatever they want. Legal stuff meant nothing. But Joe Biden had documents at home and they were like, ooh, we must follow the law. We must respect the law. So obviously, it just doesn't, when it comes up to Donald Trump, the law not only doesn't matter, it's about show. It's about embarrassing the Republican Party. It's about embarrassing Donald Trump. The great irony of all this, Stuart, and this is the thing that I find hilarious, is if the Democrats would leave Donald Trump alone, he'd lose. And the Democrats would win. But the more noise that they're creating like this leads voters to believe that the Democratic Party is being run by their so-called progressive socialist wing, and they're not really there for the people. They're there for their own political, lives.
Dude, that's like the silliest statement. Of course they're there for themselves. From Pocahontas all the way over to AOC. She wants to go to Met Gala, and the other one wanted a free education on Uncle Sam, claiming that she was an Indian. But we forget that. Debbie Wasserman Schultz said, let's step and break the necks of the Republicans. The Democrats can spew venom all day long, David. It doesn't matter. They're innocent until proven guilty, or they were misunderstood. But the minute anyone other than someone that drinks their Kool-Aid decides to say or do anything, they're guilty. It meant this. And the reason why I brought up this boat trip, David, was, and we're going to get into this big, long, what was said and what are the facts in a later episode. But David, it is super uber frustrating that these people that claim they're higher intellectual zealots really don't have a clue where the information comes from, and the press that fuels the bad press. Again, I hope Walter Cronkite is turning over in his grave listening to these news cycles over and over and over again. We're at a time that is a tipping point where the two sides are so polarized and divided. That is a bigger threat to democracy and plays right into the Chinese and Russian hands. David,
Stuart, I gotta tell you, it's just, I agree with what you're saying. You said my statement was ridiculous, but the problem is that you have, and we both know people who will vote for the Democratic Party and the Republican Party blind. Doesn't matter what they do, what they say, how they act, whatever. But the Democratic people that I'm meeting today, when you sit and you show them proof after proof of these attitudes, of this type of actions, they're not only yelling at you, they're vilifying you as the enemies of the state. We're the enemies of democracy. How in God's name is going after a former sitting president who gave money to a porn star a threat to democracy? When you have a Joe Biden and his son complicit with China and taking money from hardcore criminals, that's not a threat. But this is. Stuart, I'm scratching my head. To our Democrat friends, please do us all a favor. Rub your eyes hard. Get off of MSNBC. Start doing your homework, please.
David, on that note, that's all for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in, listening to the Rant Network. We hope you enjoyed this conversation, even though sometimes I do go off topic, and gain some valuable insight and maybe a hint of what we may be going on to next topics coming forward. We appreciate your support. Hope you'll join us again next time for more thought-provoking conversation every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern, right? Not noon your time, noon our time. In the meantime, don't forget to follow us on social media. Share your thoughts. Remember us. We're always interested in hearing from you and our viewers and learning about the topics that matter most for you. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, keep on ranting.